Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. But I'm going to be dealing with this name God and Jivas. So I'm going to show to you, you know, why the name is so important to get the name of the God as you know in the Messiah correctly. It's really the bridge to our salvation to get the name correct, because another thing, a point I want to make, when you see that J name, the Jiva's name, it comes with this image of a so-called white man that you're looking at to the left. When you say Yahweh Shai, you can see the visual difference in your mind. You see a so-called black man in your mind. So this is why this is so important for truth's sake, and so you could be reborn and get this together. So this name God and Jesus is a real stronghold on the people's minds, and the elites, they set it up to be this way. They set this up to be very complicated, but it's really simple. So I'm gonna go to Chat GPT and I'm gonna let it break it down. You let this load up. So what they did is put the false names there, and this is what people use out of their ignorance. And a lot of people, that some Israelites that know they're Israelites, right? What they'll do is use the name Yah, they'll use Yahweh, they'll use the name Yahuwah, they'll use Most High, so on and so forth as the Most High name. The Most High is just a title, but Yahweh is his proper name. And you can't use the name Yah, right? So the Messiah name is Yahweh Shai. His name ain't Yeshua. It ain't Yoshua. It ain't Christ. It ain't none of those other names. It ain't Emmanuel. You got bug eyes that's going on into that madness. His name is Yahweh Shai. So let's get into this lesson. And this Chat GPT, they sometimes they be on the money, sometimes they be way off base. But this was a pretty good one. It says, number one, it says, when the name Jivas created. When was the name Jivas created? Check this out. The name Jivas is an English transliteration. That's a lie. Not the original name. But I want you to focus on what it says, not the original name. Remember that. Okay, so let's go to this translation and transliteration. What does it mean? We got to start thinking like scholars, right? So what's the difference? So when you translate, I'm going to let this load up, and it's going to give you an example. I'm going to get straight to the point. It says translation converts the meaning of text from one language to another. So the Bible was originally, the Old Testament of the Bible was originally written in Hebrew. So it has been converted over into what you have today, English. It's been to a lot of different languages, but the source of it is Hebrew. So what does that mean? If you take a word out of Hebrew and you translate it into another language, it can be heavily manipulated. It could be changed. I'm gonna read this again. Translation converts the meaning of a text from one language to another. Spanish, hola, English, hello. You see that? It says, while transliteration converts the sounds script, the sound/script of a word from one alphabet to another, keeping it phonetically similar, but not necessarily meaningful. So yeah, that means the name Yahweh can't be translated. It only can be transliterated. The Most High name Yahweh cannot be translated. It only can be transliterated, if you understand what I'm saying. Because that's where the confusion come in that. So when they gave you this name God, God is just a title. And really when you go into the name God, it goes back into a Germanic origin. It's not even a Hebrew word. So what does that tell you if you're thinking like a scholar? That cannot be his name. When you go to this name Jesus, it's go back to the name Jesus or Isus, not a Hebrew origin. So what they did is translated the name into other languages, right, to cause the confusion. So let's go here. So hopefully you was able to keep so I can get kind of tongue tied, my throat a little dry. So like it. Let's get back into this. It says linguistic timeline. It says original Hebrew. They got Yeshua, but his name is Yahawashah. When you go break it down into Hebrew, it says short form of Yahawashah. They got Joshua, right? Because Yahawashah, and as you know, is Joshua. That wasn't his real name. That's a translation into English. Remember, when you translate something, you could take from the substance of what it means. So these names in the Bible are not transliterated. They've been translated into another language. So a lot of people actually think that Joshua's real name was Joshua. Why do they not understand this? First off, they haven't been taught this. Secondly, when you say the name Joshua, people envision so-called white people. When you put the name Yahawashah there, it's a different imagery comes along with that. If you understand, if you can keep up what I'm saying. So Joshua's name was not Joshua. That's just a translation into English. His true Hebrew name, what he was called at his time, was Yahawashah. It says, meaning Yahweh is salvation. He saves or he delivers, right? It says in use hundreds of years before Christ. Christ is a new concept. It says Greek, New Testament, Jesus or Jesus, Hebrew, Greek translation. It says Greek has no sh sound. So Yeshua became Jesus. It's Yahawashah to kill all the confusion. But the point I'm trying to make, let's get straight to the point. It says the letter J did not exist as a distinct letter until around 1500s. What does that tell you? That his name, it's impossible that the Messiah name was Jesus. Why is this so important to understand? Let's get into some scriptures. Let's get into it. Let's go here. Acts 4 and 12. And the hell with everybody else saying that's outside the truth. If they outside the truth and they using the name God and Jesus, you need to check out. You don't need to listen to them. They need to be calling on the correct names, because the world gonna try to feed you all this confusion. That's why thus Babylon, when you go into the word Babylon, which is America, it means confusion. So starting at the apostles and elders of great millstone, and then the likewise brethrens, the elders, the elders, and the apostles, the elders, the leaders and all that, long down that chain of command, right? This is why we exalt the name and tell you the correct name, because why? Acts 4 and 12. It says, neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven, which means the earth, given among men, whereby we must be saved. Do you hear how important this is? Do you hear how important this is? That means the elect of the nation Israel was going to be calling on the correct names, Yahweh and Yahawashah. We was going to go back into the Paleo Hebrew and extract the name. The Lord was going to give us his name. Let's go here. And you might not think it's a big deal because you've been poisoned from the world. And you people think you can call any name as long as, God know your heart, as you say. You're not even getting that right. Because his name not God. You're going back into some folly. Get into the truth. That's why the truth is so strange when you start to learn, because you've been taught everything wrong. It says Ecclesiastes prologue of 1 and 1, or Sirach, right? Let me get straight to the meat and potatoes. It says at the top, it says for the same things uttered, that means said, explained, talked, written down in Hebrew and translated into another tongue. You got English in the Bible today. It's been through many different languages. It's been watered down. It's been manipulated. Things have been lost in translation. And translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. Not only these things, but the law itself. So it don't just stop there. You go for the law and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. You hear what they're saying? It's a very important scripture. And it's a part of why they took up the Apocrypha out of the Bible, so they can bring that confusion in. Because if you got say you got a book, right? And they take out very important parts of the book out of the book, right? You're not going to understand completely what's going on. That's why the Jew or Greek thing is such a stumbling block for a lot of Israelites that's just waking up, or people that's outside the truth, because they took the Apocrypha out showing you that Greek, that Israelites was calling themselves Greeks. That's why they took it out. That's one of the main reasons, and for other reasons as well. Let's keep going. So this is a big thing to get the name correct. This is really how you start to wake up. And you got a lot of Israelites that use that name Yah. That's a real demon. Say his whole MF name, man. People, like I say, get bitchy when you mispronunciate or you shorten their name. Proverbs 30:4. It said, who have ascended into heaven or descended, who have gathered the wind in his fists, who have bound the waters in a garment, who have established all the ends of the earth. What is his name? What is his son name? If thou can tell it. So this is a mystery to the world, because the people know this God name. Everybody called Yahweh God. What does that tell you? They don't know what's going on, and they don't know the Most High. They don't know him, right? So let's keep going. So this is a mystery to the world, but we got the truth. We got the name. Salaki. I want to go to this right here, spiritual confusion. Because when you go into the name Babylon, it means confusion. What is spiritual confusion? It says spiritual confusion means feeling lost, uncertain, or disoriented about your beliefs, purpose, or path, often arising from conflicting ideas, life changes, like a spiritual awakening or crisis. So, when we see our people in this state that they don't really know anything, it puts them in a spiritual paralysis. And you can see their ignorance come out when things come up that's dealing with the scriptures and the truth of the matter. Right? It says right here, spiritual awakening, because prior to you waking up, you was into much confusion. You was in Christianity. You believed in a lot of myths. A lot of you believed in hell. There ain't no such thing as hell. A lot of you believed in that Trinity doctrine. That's a false doctrine. A lot of you believed that the Gentiles can be saved, not understanding the Gentiles was talking about the Israelites. That's why they put that name New Testament there. It's supposed to really be called a renewed covenant. And that word Gentile can be applicable to Israelites, or it can be applicable to heathens, depending on the context. A prime example is Ephesians chapter 2. They were Israelites, but they was called Gentiles. Look it up. It says spiritual awakening. It says shedding old beliefs. And a lot of you just got a problem with this. You carry on those things you've been taught ever since you was a child in Christianity, and you try to mix it into the truth. That's nothing but confusion. And that's why a lot of you end up more confused than you ever been. You brothers and you sisters that's learning, and you getting it, you got it. It ain't no confusion. Most High is not the author of confusion. What does that mean? He's not going to bring no confusion your way. Shed old beliefs and learning new ones can feel like the soul being ripped apart, creating chaos before clarity. And that's kind of like the transition you go through when you come into the truth, because you've been taught everything. You've been indoctrinated ever since you was a little child. So to go against all that, it's going to be a hard transition. But you got to, that's when the Spirit of the Lord comes upon you and navigate you and helps you, kind of like hold your hand through everything. Because you're going through a rebirth. That's basically you being reborn. You have to learn everything over from scratch, especially when it comes to anything dealing with the Bible. Right? So going back into this, my opening, this name is so important. It's literally the bridge to our salvation. And you see so many people come close, but they don't have the correct name. And again, when you say that J name, that image to the left comes up in a mental image. When you say Yahweh Shai, it's the description right here. Revelation chapter 1, like the lesson I did yesterday, the Edomite looking woman was going into this common sense stuff, man. But hopefully this lesson has been edifying. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakak, Kodash, Shalom.